All right, we are now live at the last resort, Ron and Denny's last resort, and these are my mother and father.
And that's the monogram on our pool towels.
Ah, yes,
Ron and
the
Denny's last
last
resort.
resort.
Yeah. We should
Yeah.
have brought one for the camera. Yeah.
Well, it's our day of love, so I've
Yes.
come to you to get your perspective, the new
The new
perspective
Yeah.
perspective.
And
on love.
we have been following the events of the
Mm.
day, and we're very, very thrilled about what is being
Mm.
done here and shared all over the world because it is enlightening and inspiring, and I think really gets people in touch with their basic love nature. And Denny, what did we decide we would share from the new perspective?
Well, what we have been conceiving lately is this idea of trying to help people who are so confused about where they are in the world, not knowing what's going on. And Dad has simplified it so well that we'd really like to share it. And
Yeah.
he calls it the rule of two.
And we were motivated to come up with the rule of two because we work with so many people whose motivation to get here to Sedona and spend time with us is because they feel their lives have become so complex, so complicated, in some cases so out of control, that they really are here at Ron and Denny's last resort
Resort.
as a last resort to try to save their relationship,
Yes.
which has become totally unmanageable. So here's the trick: to use love to find your way in what seems like a complicated lifestyle. And you know, life isn't really that complicated. Life is really quite simple. We tend to make it complicated. So the rule
Exactly.
of two has two parts. First part is there are only two forces in the universe that you will ever encounter. So when your life is confused and unmanageable, know that you can figure out where you are and what's going on, and thus find a path out and back to sanity by remembering you're either dealing with love or fear. That's it. Those are the only two forces, right?
Yes, and there's fear wears many, many disguises. Fear looks like defensiveness. Fear looks like jealousy,
Inadequacy.
inadequacy, anger. Fear just wears many, many, many disguises. And so many of us spend our lifetimes spinning our wheels trying to figure out what kind of fear we're feeling.
And that's pointless.
Pointless. It's fear.
The important point is it's fear. And the reason it's important to identify when fear is here is because people behave in ways that are less than desirable when they are afraid. That's really, really important. And if you stop to think about it, you can see in your own relationships where that has been true. You can look at your own past behavioral situations that weren't pleasant and see that that was true. If you really dig deep, you can find what the source of the fear was. Tell them about recognizing love too, so they.
Well, that's what I was
Yeah,
about to
good.
say. Everybody can recognize when they feel love. I mean, it could be the love of a pet. It could have been the first time you looked into your loved one's eyes or your firstborn child. But there's an experience of love and it just overcomes you. It comes out of the heart and it floods the entire being.
So when you're in a state of chaos, check in and see if you can feel that feeling. If it's not
Not
that
love.
feeling, it's not love. If it's not love,
Guess
it's
what?
fear.
It's fear.
And people behave in ways that are less than
than
desirable when they're afraid. That's the first part of the rule of two. Second part of the rule of two is addressing the idea of a duality of man. We literally are split personalities, and that's more than just a psychiatric clinical term. We all have two masters of the mind. And this is a free choice universe, so we decide which master is in charge from moment to moment to moment. The possible masters are spirit. When spirit is in charge of our mind, we are connected to our source, the Creator. That is our divine connection. And with that master running our behavior, our choices are kind and loving, peaceful, and things really go well. Then something happens. A childhood wound gets triggered. Our partner says something that we take as a critical thing. Or we just fall asleep consciously. We go unconscious to what we know to be true.
True. Sure.
And by default, just like a computer defaults to a certain position, the human mind defaults to allowing the ego to become the master of the mind. And when ego is master of the mind, everything is fear-based, it's incredibly judgmental. The other thing about the ego mind is it's always defensive. So when you find your partner acting defensively, acting judgmentally, criticizing what you do, acting out of fear, you know that that person has been rendered unconscious and ego is now running the show, is the master of the mind.
Yes. And it's a free choice universe. And we don't recognize what we really get to choose. And the more consciousness, the more self-awareness we have, the more we know we have the choice. We're not just run by our reacting. We can start acting consciously.
So my suggestion is start noticing the behavior of others and start getting good at recognizing whether they're in love or fear, whether they're in their ego mind or their spirit mind. And when you get good at seeing it in others, then turn the spotlight on yourself and see if you can start finding it in yourself. And Denny, why don't you talk a little about when you find that the ego mind is at work, what are the ways to control that or get back to spirit?
Well, you know, the first thing is to notice. And the minute that you notice the ego mind is in charge, it starts to loosen its grip. And the next thought is remembering your spirit. And not only yours, but the one you're reacting to. Remembering that you're both really spirit having a human experience.
And a little trick I've started using that I found very helpful, and I use it with Denny, and I use it with you, and I use it with whoever I'm in contact with when it's called for. And that's mentally saying to myself the Sanskrit word namaste. And that reminds me what namaste means. Namaste means the spirit in me recognizes the spirit in you. And the very thought of that conscious thought is an invitation to spirit. And it's been our experience for the last several decades that spirit only comes by invitation and when called upon never fails to be part of our lives in a very positive, beneficial way.
I want to share that we use this sometime in the most mundane of ways. The other day, I just made the worst mess imaginable in the kitchen. And I started in on hating that mess. I was coming unglued with the mess. I noticed Ron's over in the corner going, namaste, namaste, namaste. But he did. He survived me. He didn't react to me. He just let me have my little fit.
Yeah.
And I
I
got it cleaned up, but it was so
and
funny.
I wasn't doing it for her benefit. I was doing it for my benefit to keep my head on.
So we have fun with it.
Yeah.
Another thing that we sometimes, both of us do, is we'll say to ourselves, I invite spirit to speak through me for my higher good and the higher good of all concerned. And that is an activation.
Yeah.
And
of
another thing
affirmation.
we do that is really helpful is we will look at each other sometimes and we will say, you know, if this is going to be funny someday, it may as well be funny now. And I can't tell you how many times we have laughed our way through those tight spots.
witnessed it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, yep, yep.
So
Yeah.
just sum up,
Choose
I
love.
mean, love is a very powerful, very healing energy, and it can be life-saving
Yes,
Yeah.
at
yes.
times.
And one of our major tools in the 10 tools for self-transformation is choose love. And choose love again. And while you're at it, choose love again. Oh, and don't forget to choose love again. You do it every single moment. Not once, but over and over and over.
Yeah.
And it becomes your habit.
So, Spirit had something in mind here. You know, I was supposed to be broadcasting this to the Day of Love
Yes.
group.
Yes.
Somehow it got broadcast to everybody, but not the Day of Love group.
Oh, my God.
So, but you know, a bigger audience.
Okay.
4,000 of my
Oh,
Facebook friends, and
I hope your
there's
friends have
some
enjoyed
that
it.
did not sign up for the Day of Love. So we've got Marcia Cooper here, and Erica
Oh, that's
Buckles
so
here,
funny.
and Michelle Engelbert Adams here. So
We
What
know
a
some
gift.
of those
yeah,
people.
so
Hi.
you know, they got a chance to hear you, and I would invite everyone who listens to this, if they want to check out the Day of Love, it's going to be up there, and everything that we've done is preserved forever. So, you know, if you go to my hypnotherapy page, you can access it there at Rick Reynolds, Certified Clinical Hypnotherapist, and on the
Yay.
left, Day of Love, and they can click through and get into the group. So I'm going to pause this. We're going to go into the group. I'm going to share everything that we did with the group.
Okay.
So that they'll get all that, but maybe we'll do a little more just
Okay.
for them.
Okay.
Okay, great.